In section 4.1.23, on an international exam, students are asked to respond to a variety of background questions. For the 41 nations that participated in the exam, the correlation between the percentage of items answered in the background questionnaire used as a proxy for student task persistence and mean score on the exam was 0.872. Does this suggest that there is a linear relation between student task persistence and achievement score? And once we decide whether there's a linear relation, then we're going to write a sentence that explains what this result might mean. So the first thing that's given in the problem is the number for R, which is the linear correlation. And so the linear correlation is given by the number of 0.872. So we're going to compare the correlation coefficient versus the critical value. So the correlation coefficient is the absolute value of the number 0.872, which is 0.872. And now we need to find the critical value. Now, the critical value is depending upon the number in the sample. Well, the amount of nations that participated in the exam is 41. So therefore, N is equal to 41. So now we need to look at our critical values for the correlation coefficient and search down the value in the column of N and find out where we see 41. Now, if we go all the way down to the bottom, we can see that 41 is greater than the value of 30. And if you look at the value of the critical values, they decrease as you keep going higher with the number of N. So that means that this is going to get smaller. So even though we don't know what that number is, we know that whatever N equals 41, that means this number is going to be even smaller than this number here. So if we look at the correlation coefficient, we can compare it to the critical value of 30, since we know this is going to be smaller than that. And so the correlation coefficient is going to be greater than the critical value for 30. So the question says, does this suggest there is a linear relation between the student task persistence and achievement score? Well, we'd say yes, because the absolute value of 0.872 is greater than the critical value for 30. And so what does this result mean? Well, that means that countries in which students answered a greater percentage of items in the background questionnaire tended to have a higher mean scores on the exam.